McCrispy strips are now at McDonald's. Tender, juicy, and its own sauce. Would you look at that? Well, you can't see it, but trust me, it looks delicious. New McCrispy strips, now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 170 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, man. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
We just got done recording some really good episodes, man, that I think people are going to like. By the time this airs, there will be a Patreon-only episode that came out Saturday night.
Yeah.
On the murder of Martha Puebla. And that case has got a lot to it.
Got a lot happening.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the murder of a 16-year-old girl, gang violence, a father who is saved from the death penalty by some very strange, bizarre circumstances. Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm is involved. So I think people will like that if you're a Patreon member. And if you're not, it's a great time to sign up. We also have a brand new episode out on TCAT where we're talking about John Rodney McRae. This case was interesting to me because McRae murdered younger boys.
Yeah. But
he also committed his first murder as a young teenager.
15.
Yeah, 15. Did a very long stint in prison. It could have been much longer, right? It could have been life. They let him out, and then he went on to kill more people. So, you know, the circumstances behind all of it, and I think people will like this episode. Gibbs, our Patreon support continues to be amazing. Let's give some shout outs. We had Leslie Wimberly.
Hey, Wimberly.
Dan Casey.
What's going on, Casey?
Caitlin Rowland.
Hey, Caitlin.
Stephanie.
Hey, thanks, Stephanie.
Aaron Brett.
Hey, Aaron.
Jeffrey Von Loonberg.
Ooh, Von Loonberg.
Shauna Silvestri.
Hey, Silvestri.
Yvette Duval.
Hey, Yvette.
Frankie Melnick.
Hey, thanks, Frankie.
Katie Gillespie.
What's going on, Katie?
Margie Lasofsky.
Ooh, Lasofsky.
Oh, you added 3 or 4 different syllables there. That was good.
I did.
We had Gina Buccini.
Ooh, Buccini.
Daniti Hernandez.
Hey, Hernandez.
Alana Ralph.
What's going on, Alana?
Jasmine Allen.
Hey, Jasmine.
Jennifer Tolado.
Hey, Tolado.
Carolyn.
What's going on, Carolyn?
Juliana Ali.
Hey, Juliana.
Tara Christine.
Thanks, Tara.
Reed Murray.
What's going on, Reed?
Angela.
Hey, Angela.
Annie Paul.
Thanks, Annie.
Clasina.
Hey, Clasina.
And Aubrey Garrick.
Oh, thanks, Aubrey.
So we appreciate all that new support. And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Kim Pasqualini.
Pasqualini.
No.
No.
Not even close, I don't believe.
No. I missed that one.
But we do appreciate Kim's long-term support and all the people that continue to support us on Patreon.
We do.
We had some great PayPal donations. Jillian Yeager.
Hey, Jillian.
Laren Owenby.
What's going on, Laren?
Elise Stave.
Hey, Elise.
Or Stave. Could be Stave.
Could be Stave.
It could be.
Yeah.
And Sue Ragland.
Hey, Sue. Yeah, Sue's always jumping in like that.
Yeah, Sue's great. Great supporter of the show. We have so many great supporters, Gibbs. It's amazing. All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am.
We're talking about the unsolved disappearances and murders of 3 teenagers in Northeast Ohio back in 1962 and 1963. So about a 1-year time frame in and around Summit County, Ohio, a number of teenagers disappeared and then were found murdered. Now, most investigators feel 2 of the 3 are certainly connected, and the third victim could be as well. So before we get into the disappearances and murders, let's talk a little bit about the victims. We could find some info on all 3 of the victims, but not a lot. So we'll give what we could find. Marion Joyce Brubaker was born on June 4th, 1950 in Akron, Ohio, to Reverend Claire Daniel Brubaker and his wife, Ruth Rebecca Brubaker. The Brubakers had 4 girls in total. Claire said that Marion was just the sweetest little girl. She loved school, church, hanging out with her friends. She absolutely adored animals.
She's also very good at playing the piano. So good that she played the piano at her dad's church quite a bit. Unlike your piano skills, by the way.
My piano skills are nil because I've never tried. I've never learned.
That's good.
They're actually even less than my guitar skills.
I just wasn't sure what the keyboard over there was for then.
Well, that's part of my 1980s Devo band.
Flock of Seagulls or
Flock
something
of
like
Seagulls thing. Marion's family said she loved to spend time at the library. She was an avid reader and would check out 4 to 5 books a week.
That's a lot of books, man.
It's a lot of books for you and I.
Definitely a lot of books for me.
Some people read that much. You and I do not.
Oh.
You're not able to. I get that.
That's the problem that I have. Correct. Yeah.
Now, Marion would have gone into the 7th grade at the Lakeview School District after the summer break. At the time of her disappearance and death, she was only 12 years old. Thomas J. Sumerix was born in 1947 to John and Marion Sumerix in Green Township, Ohio. He had blue eyes and a blonde crew cut, but he stood just 5 foot tall and weighed 87 pounds at the time of his disappearance. Thomas was a good student who had just finished his freshman year at Green High School prior to his disappearance. His parents said he loved tinkering with things. He loved to see how things worked, so he would take apart radios and other gadgets.
I used to do that.
I did too, and I was always, and I still am to some degree, and I don't want to ruin my stuff, but
Right.
I would ruin other people's stuff when I was a kid. But I was always very interested in especially electronics and what was inside and how they worked. Even some things like a golf ball. I remember one time cutting into a golf ball with a hacksaw.
Just wanting to know how.
So I could see what was inside, what made the golf ball fly so far.
Yeah.
At that time, it was a bunch of like little rubber bands, if I remember.
And you're like, that's it? That's all?
They don't make them like that today. But Thomas also liked to build model cars and planes. He enjoyed sports like most kids, but he really liked to hike in the woods. He loved being the big brother to his younger sister and younger brother and helped them pray each night before bedtime.
It's a good brother.
It sounds as though he was. Ruth Guthrie was born in 1950 to Willis and Edna Guthrie in Talmadge, Ohio. She was one of 4 siblings. Ruth had short, dark brown hair and pale blue eyes. At the time of her disappearance, she was 12 years old, 5'1", and weighed 90 pounds. She had just finished the 7th grade before she disappeared. Ruth was a pretty girl. She loved to dance. She loved music. She enjoyed going to carnivals and fairs.
Really enjoyed going to the swimming pool.
She really liked to swim. On Monday, August 27th, 1962, Marion Brubaker told her mother that she was going to ride her bike the 4 miles up to the local library. She left her house around 2 p.m. and she arrived at the library around 2:30.
Once inside, she found some books that she wanted to check out and take home with her. We know she checked out some of the books and then left the library.
From there, she went to the local 5 and dime store and picked up something that her mom had asked her to pick up. At this point, it's assumed that she would have headed home. The sheriff received a call around 4:30 p.m. from a man who claimed his son had told him that he saw a nude girl dead in the nearby woods off Main Street and Killian Road. Sheriff deputies were dispatched and arrived quickly on the scene. They found a young, semi-nude female lying face up. She had a gash on her forehead. Her gym shoes and socks lay near her body. Her shirt and bra were up around her neck, and her shorts and underwear covered her face. Deputies found her broken glasses, her bike, and the library books about 20 to 30 feet away under some trees. And the sheriff was quickly able to identify the body. After finding the library card information inside the books, this was a small town. And with Marion's father being the local minister, they knew exactly where to find him.
Yeah, to bring him back to identify the body. You know, it'd just be rough to walk up and have to identify your daughter at a crime scene like that.
I think it would be rough for any parent, right, to have to identify their child, whether it was in the morgue. But I do think you're right, Gibbs. There's something about having to do it at the crime scene and view your child in that state versus a more sterile, controlled environment like the morgue. Not that that would be great at all. The coroner and investigators released information that Marion had been struck with an object in her forehead that most likely rendered her unconscious. She was then dragged face down through the woods to where she was found. And they know this from the scratches to her face and dirt that was found inside her mouth. Her cause of death was listed as strangulation.
Yeah, they put the time of death around 4 p.m. They didn't mention anything about sexual assault, but it appeared that the suspect was planning to perform some type of sexual assault.
Yeah, and I think most people would definitely get that from the description that we gave of how Marion's body was found.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have closed, pushed up, and, you know, bottoms removed, why would that be?
Yeah.
Why would a killer do that unless there was something sexual that had either happened or was about to happen and didn't for some reason?
I did find it interesting that they put her shorts and underwear over her face, covering her eyes. Almost like maybe they didn't want to look at her if and when they performed anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people would surmise, is that it's either that or they don't want the victim looking at them.
It's true.
One way or the other.
Right.
Even though that person may already be deceased, for whatever reason, they don't want to see their face, or they don't want it to appear as though that person is looking at them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The sheriff's investigators interviewed the boy who found Marion's body. 15-year-old Ralph Bechter was a ninth grader who lived across the street from where the body was found. Ralph was a pretty big boy.
Yeah, definitely a husky boy there. 5'9", 220 pounds.
Well, we just talked about the victims in the beginning. Now, a little bit younger than 15, but much smaller.
87 pounds, 90 pounds. Yeah.
Not even reaching 100 pounds. This boy's 15 years old, 220 pounds.
Yeah.
Investigators noticed that he had some fresh scratches on his arms and hands. His clothes appeared to be dirty. His shirt was partially untucked, and some buttons were missing from the shirt, and his zipper was open.
That's not good. I mean, it doesn't mean anything if someone comes to your house and your flies down, right? We've all done that. We've all been at work and looked down and went, oh, forgot to zip up. But in this case, it doesn't look good.
It definitely doesn't when you're the person that found the deceased. Given the state that she was in.
Exactly.
The way that we described it. Ralph told investigators that he walked through these woods a lot. Now, on this day, he said he was there around 4. He walked through, he saw a bike under the trees, but he didn't think much about it and started to walk out of the woods. But he turned around and went back into the woods to take a closer look. And that's when he saw Marion's body. Investigators asked Ralph to take a polygraph test, which he does, but he fails it. Yet they still released him. Now, they eventually charged Ralph with giving false information, and he went to a juvenile hearing where the prosecutor said that he had been accused of molesting a girl in the very same woods just a few months prior, but he was never charged in that incident.
Pretty important information.
Ralph was sent away for evaluation. He failed 2 more polygraph tests, but was never charged with the murder of Marion Brubaker and was released to his family just a few months later in October. Marion's case went cold. And then in March of 1964, a 40-year-old man named William Lewis told investigators that he was the man who hit Marion in her head and knocked her off her bike and killed her. And Gibbs, I guess he provided investigators with a ton of details.
He really did. The problem is, all those details he gave them, they were already in the paper. He read about them. So he could have got them from that and came in and said, hey, I did it, and here's what I know.
Yeah, he didn't give them anything that wasn't already public knowledge. The other issue with William's confession was William had some mental issues, and he had been in and out of a mental hospital.
Yeah, actually several over many years. So that was another issue with his confessions.
Authorities sent him to the local mental hospital to be evaluated. And there they admitted him as being mentally insane. So I think from that point, Gibbs, they didn't feel as though he had anything to do with it. And after that, he was no longer considered a suspect.
And at that point, Marion's case goes cold again.
On Wednesday, June 5th, 1963, Thomas Sumerix left his home around 6:15 p.m. to walk to the local shopping plaza to purchase some new shoes for a hiking event the next day with some friends.
Do you notice back in the day, everybody walked places, and they walked a lot.
And they walked alone.
And they walked alone as well.
Quite often at a young age. It wasn't out of the ordinary in a lot of places because people didn't worry about a lot of the things that we worry about today. Now, some of these cases, I guarantee you, changed that way of thinking.
Absolutely, they did.
As has happened in a lot of the cases that we profiled.
Yeah.
Thomas was seen in and around the shopping plaza just after 7 p.m. He was wearing black shorts and a light blue short sleeve shirt. He went into a store called Noble's and found a pair of gray shoes. He handed the clerk a $20 bill at 7:30 p.m. The clerk gave him back his change, and Thomas was last seen leaving the plaza on South Arlington. By 9 p.m. that night, his parents got very concerned because he had not returned from his shopping trip. His mother called neighbors and friends to check to see if Thomas had stopped at these places on his way back, but no one had seen him. As the night went on and Thomas was nowhere to be found, his parents called the sheriff. Sheriff's deputies searched for Thomas that night and into the next morning. They checked around his neighborhood. They checked out the shopping plaza and the path between the plaza and his home.
Yeah, his walking route.
Which would have been the places to check.
Absolutely, yeah.
But they had no luck in finding him. And it was that morning that they declared him officially missing. So his family and friends started making flyers and handing them out all over town.
The sheriff has search dogs brought in, search helicopter, horseback riders, and divers.
They searched ponds, creeks, the woods, fields, but still no luck in finding Thomas. Sheriff's investigators questioned over 50 people in the first couple of days, but developed no leads from this questioning.
It's got to be rough. After you talk to 50 people, nothing. Not 1 ounce of hope.
Well, and not only no hope, but nothing to lead you to the next piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Right? You haven't even found the first piece. So how do you, get the momentum rolling when you can't get lead 1? Investigators theorized that on his way home, it was possible Thomas hitchhiked because by that time it was dark out. He had hitchhiked in the past.
Well, he had no problem with it.
As a lot of people did.
Pretty common back in the day.
Yeah. So investigators had no leads from the searches, the interviews. And I think at that point, Gibbs, they began to wonder if it was possible that Thomas had run away.
Well, I know when researching this, there was a lot of runaways in that northeastern Ohio area. A lot. So I don't know, back in the 60s, maybe people just weren't happy or maybe they just wanted a different life and they were running off.
Well, it was the 60s, man. I mean, maybe they were thumbing rides to get out to San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury. I don't know.
That's true. Head out west, man.
But that wasn't Thomas. His family said, no way. Not in a million years would he run away. The sheriff in the community of Summit County received another shock just a week after Thomas went missing. Because on Wednesday, June 12th, 7th grader Ruth Guthrie asked her mom if she could attend the Midwest Industrial Free Fair that day. It was being held at the Talmadge High School Stadium. This was a pretty big deal. It was a big fair.
It brought in over 25,000 people that day.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of people. It was around 2 p.m. that afternoon when Ruth left her home and headed south about 1.5 miles to the stadium. She was set to meet her 2 best friends there. And Ruth was very excited about going to the fair, so much so that she had worked very hard at home doing all of her chores over the last week so that she had a little bit of extra money to spend.
Yeah, you want to go to that fair and have that money in your pocket so you can buy things and play the games. It's a good time at those festivals. I know you always like to do the shooting at the target thing.
I like the water one.
The shoot in the water?
Where you shoot the water and try to hit the bullseye and it makes like a horse or something go up. And
race.
Whoever's horse gets to the top first wins.
Yeah. I always like throwing the little rings.
That game's rigged.
But I always win. When they just don't look, I lean over and put them. No. Yeah, no, there's a lot of those games that are rigged.
There are. Yeah. It's like Vegas on steroids.
Yeah.
They want to have all the advantage.
Yeah. Those are your carny buddies.
I know. Ruth was seen playing some carnival games, riding some of the rides. That day, Ruth was wearing white pants, a white sweatshirt, white gym shoes, and carrying a purple purse. Then around 5:30 p.m., Ruth and her friends headed home for dinner. And it was just a few blocks from Ruth's home that the 3 of them said their goodbyes and went their separate ways. This was at the intersection of Vinewood Avenue and Beer Street. And this was the last time that Ruth was seen. Her family started to become concerned when she didn't make it home for dinner.
And that's a problem because she was specifically told to be home by dinner time.
Yeah, I think it increased the level of worry on the part of her family.
Yeah.
If there's no expectation that you specifically be home for dinner, then maybe you don't worry as much.
Yeah, maybe you think, they got caught up playing some stuff or ran into some friends. They'll be here eventually. But if you say, no, you need to be here by this time, and in the past they always show up at the time you tell them, and they don't this time, yeah, you're going to be concerned.
They gave it about an hour after the time that they expected Ruth home, and then her dad went out looking for her, but couldn't locate her. He called the Talmadge Police Department and reported Ruth missing. Police responded pretty quickly to his concerns. They came out to the house, questioned the family, and then they questioned Ruth's two friends. Police investigators questioned fair workers and even people who were still at the fair. And there were some people that recalled seeing Ruth at the fair, but they said they didn't see anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah, just a girl walking around with her friends playing some games.
The Summit County Sheriff lended their support. And over the next few days, they, along with firefighters and people from the community, searched for Ruth. And they used many of the same resources that had been used to look for Thomas.
Yeah, they used the helicopter, horses, search dogs, and divers again.
And this time they added something extra. They brought in an airplane to put up in the air to search over the two areas where these teenagers went missing, right? Just something else to try to spot anything.
Well, this was not a normal occurrence, right? I mean, this is not something in this community you would have had happen. So, but in the last year, you have in Summit County, Marion Brubaker. Now you have Thomas, and now you have Ruth. Kind of alarming.
Well, alarming, and especially in the cases of Thomas and Ruth, those two disappearances happened a week apart.
Yeah.
I imagine the community was very alarmed.
I mean, you have to start wondering, do I let my kids walk anywhere at this point if you live in Summit County?
Well, and I can tell you, for me, the answer is no. Now, I'm a very cautious person by nature anyway, but if I've got two disappearances in my local area in the span of a week and another one that happened, not that far in the past, I'm battening down the hatches, man. I'm just telling you straight out.
Yeah. Locking it down.
Even with bringing in the airplane, though, the authorities were not able to locate Ruth or Thomas. And I think one thing we haven't talked about, Gibbs, that's important to mention. Ruth and Thomas did not know each other.
No.
Nor did they know Marion Brubaker. And the reason it's important to talk about is because authorities started getting reports of sightings of Ruth and Thomas in town together.
Yeah.
Now, they also got some reports of them being seen separately. Reports came in that they were hanging out at the park together. They were seen at a local church. And I think these types of reports had to be extremely frustrating for the families because, again, why would these two kids be together? They didn't know each other.
And you're just offering up false hopes. You really are. And it certainly can't help the investigation.
No, because those leads have to be checked into, right? So if they're false, then that's a waste of resources, taking them away from checking on something else.
Yeah.
But just like with the investigation into the disappearance of Marion, the investigation into these two disappearances went cold. That was until May 2nd, 1964, when a local family had been hunting for mushrooms. And their 11-year-old daughter came across some skeletal remains under a very tall tulip tree in the woods. The site was on Mudbrook Road, about 140 yards from Highway 241 in Jackson Township. This was just a few miles over the Summit County line and very close to Jackson High School. So this family, they went to tell authorities, and the authorities came back to the scene to inspect it. When they examined the remains, they found a rope around the neck and a piece of clothing or a rag near the skull. It also appeared that the hands had been bound. Authorities found a few other pieces of cloth near the site The coroner eventually matched the dental records to Thomas Sumerix. And Thomas's parents confirmed the cloth found matched the clothes that he wore the day he went missing. Thomas had been abducted and murdered. His skeletal remains were found in Stark County, 8 miles away from his home. The coroner reported the cause of death as strangulation and said that death had most likely occurred within days of Thomas being abducted. Authorities never found his new shoes that he had purchased or his wallet. The two counties worked together to try to figure out who could have done this. They questioned more people. They re-interviewed people that they had talked to the year before.
The problem is, as the weeks go on, they don't have any new leads.
But then on May 28th, 1964, this is just about 3 weeks after Thomas's remains were found, a farmer and his wife were walking through an orchard about 50 yards from McClintocksburg Road in Palmyra Township in Portage County when they saw a skeleton up against a hickory tree. It's not a sight that you want to see when you're having a leisurely nature stroll through an orchard.
No, that's the last thing you want to see.
So the farmer called the sheriff, who called in the Portage County coroner. When the authorities got on site, they noted that the hands were tied. There were clothes found on the top half of the remains, but nothing on the bottom half. And Gibbs, I think right away, the authorities knew who they had found.
Yeah, exactly. Because of the clothes that were left on.
But they did confirm by using dental records it was Ruth Guthrie. The coroner determined that she had been strangled and that her body had been at this site for about a year. And this site was about 20 miles from her home. Ruth's purple purse was missing and was never found.
So, you had Thomas, his wallet was never found. Ruth's purse was never found. I don't know. Does that mean something? It could be. It could. I don't think they had a lot of money in there, but it could be one of those things that a souvenir.
Well, I was going to say, to me, everything could mean something.
Yeah.
Right? In an investigation. And I think you're right on. That could be a souvenir for a serial killer.
Yeah.
A purse, a wallet. Maybe there were some cards in there. Maybe they had a library card with their picture on it. We don't know.
Yeah.
So Gibbs, now you've got 3 counties who work together trying to solve these 3 murders. The FBI got involved. Thousands of people were interviewed over the years, and there have been some persons of interest, but really nothing has ever come from it. In 2012, cold case investigators looked into Marion Brubaker's case again. Obviously, DNA technology had advanced a great deal. And in Marion's case, they knew there was a potential suspect that had fresh scratches on him, but no one ever collected the DNA under Marion's nails. And really, Gibbs, if you think about it back then, why would they have?
Yeah, they didn't know that that's something they needed to do. What were they going to do with it? They didn't know that this opportunity was going to come around.
In 2014, the Summit County prosecutor, as well as the Summit County medical examiner, wanted to perform a second autopsy on Marion, and they decided to exhume her body. They were able to get a small amount of DNA from underneath her fingernails, and then they returned her body. And Gibbs, to me, this is extremely important, right? To try to gather this evidence and develop some type of DNA profile from it. We talked about it earlier. At the time of Marion's murder, there was a 15-year-old boy who lived across the street from the woods. He found her body.
Yeah.
And he had fresh scratches on his arms and hands. He was also missing some buttons from his shirt. And when they found him, his zipper was down.
Yeah.
make of that what you will. But he also failed several polygraphs back then. In 2014, this man was 67 years old, still living in town.
Yeah.
But he had a clean record. He had never been arrested. His DNA was not in any database. Therefore, it couldn't be tested. And there wasn't a ton of information out there about this, but my assumption is this guy wasn't going to voluntarily give up his DNA. I'm not even sure if they asked, but I'm thinking if asked, it wouldn't have happened. And I can't imagine that they had enough to compel him to give DNA.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that either.
Did he have anything to do with it? I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know.
No, I just don't know. You know, we've said in the past that these polygraphs just don't hold a lot of weight, but I think they hold some weight. Sometimes I think they're good. They give you a good direction in how somebody's answering questions.
Well, I think if you just had the polygraphs alone, okay, maybe you don't make that much out of them.
Yeah.
But this is the person that found her body, the scratches, the way his appearance was. I mean, I think it probably leads a lot of people to question, certainly,
Yeah.
whether he had any involvement whatsoever, or was just a kid who, you know, was kind of unkempt and was always running through the woods, getting scratches on his arms.
Right. And the zipper being down. Well,
yours is down
right now.
Most of the time.
Right this moment, it's down.
And sometimes I think purposefully, which does not make me happy.
Didn't need to go there, but thank you.
But as we wrap up this case, you know, as of today, no one has been convicted in the murders of Tommy, Ruth, or Marion.
No.
The cases remain unsolved. And definitely these go back 50 years. I mean, we're going up on 60 years here pretty soon.
I think about Tommy's and Ruth's, I think those are going to be tougher to solve because they were not found for at least a year later. But I think about Marion's and how she was found probably within a half an hour from the time that she was murdered. It was such a fresh murder scene.
It was. And I think today they would have gathered so much evidence, it would make your head spin.
Yeah.
But back in the early 60s, there was no reason to even look for certain things that we just take for granted today because nobody knew what DNA was. Nobody knew that this unbelievable technology was going to come down the pike and it would be great to, you know, have certain things, even if you had to keep them in storage. Nobody knew that stuff.
Yeah. And I did read in one article about how the police, the sheriff and the police departments in those areas just weren't really up to par on investigating murders because they didn't have a lot back then at that time. They had some disappearances and things like that, but they didn't have the murders.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we see that in some cases in the more rural areas back in the day. They just didn't have the experience. And you can look at that and say it's a good thing.
Yeah.
These were safe places to live. The problem is when you do have that murder that happens and then you have 2, 3, and you don't have the experience, is something likely to get missed? Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Sure.
But I don't know if it did. I mean, this could have been a by the book, very good investigation, and it was just a tough one to solve. I think a lot of people think the murders of Thomas and Ruth are connected, linked, most likely committed by the same person. There's a lot of similarities to them. And then maybe Marion's was committed by somebody else. I mean, if you've got, let's say, a vagrant or somebody that's just traveling through, that was there for a week or two, committed these 2 murders, and then never returned to that area again. And those are tough murders to solve even today.
Yeah, it would be really hard.
But that's it. That's it for the case of the Northeast Ohio teenager murders.
Yeah.
We got some voicemails. You want to check those out?
Let's hear them.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Bee. I am not a long-time listener. I just started listening a few months ago, but I'm all caught up on TCAT. I'm from Maine. I actually just started listening to Unsolved because I'm just craving more TCAT. I'm not a huge Unsolved person because I like the resolve, like a lot of people have said. But I do have a suggestion for Unsolved, and forgive me if you've done it, but I don't think you have. It's a local case to Maine, to actually the town next to where I grew up. It's from Jay, Maine, Kimberly Morrow. She went missing in, I believe it was the late 80s, and still her parents are trying to find out what happened to her. So thank you guys, and keep your own time ticking.
All the way from Maine.
Well, I know that's a case we have not done, but we will definitely put it on the list and do a little research.
Absolutely.
Hi, guys. This is Billy Turner. I live in a small town in Missouri, and I've been listening to your podcast for about a year and a half now. And I just finished the Walker case, and that case really was tugging at my heartstrings because I got 3 kids. I got a 13-year-old girl, a 9-year-old boy, and a 2-year-old girl. And I could just see my son, like the other boy, trying to carry out his younger sisters. And man, that was a tough one to listen to, guys. Anyways, I love you guys' podcast. I've been listening to it every day. I live 45 minutes away from work, and I can't get enough of it. Anyways, you guys keep up the good work. Stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Yeah, that was a tough one, that Walker Fire unsolved murders there.
Yeah, I mean, tough to research, tough for you and I to do.
Yeah.
Those are just tough all the way around.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Gibby. It's Tabitha Carl. I listened to my voicemail, and if Gibby doesn't know the coach of the Kentucky Wildcats, I'm sorry, but I can't be on his team. So I guess I'm Team Mike, and for season tickets, I'll do anything. Thanks. Bye.
Kentucky fans always will do anything for tickets.
They will. There's no links they won't go to. That's how important it is.
But yeah, I'm not a Kentucky Wildcat fan, man. I'm just not. I mean, I don't, no disrespect.
No.
But I'm not going to know who I won't be able to tell you who the players are, coaches. I don't follow them. I just don't. I mean, he looks good in his suit. Man, he's got a nice suit.
Sure he does.
You know?
Those suits cost more than probably everything in both of our wardrobes combined. Those suits are probably super expensive.
Probably more expensive than my car.
It might be. No, not everybody needs to be a Kentucky Wildcat fan. I'm not sure what you're a fan of. See, and that, maybe that's where the problem lies, because where's the stand? Take a stand.
You know what I'm a fan of? All those people out there listening to us.
Your team.
I'm team you guys. That's who I am.
Team.
I'm team you guys.
Hey, you don't have to be a diehard sports fan. That's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Gibby. It's Tabitha Carl. I listen.
That one, right?
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Jeannie from Houston, Texas. I just finished listening to your Ken McElroy episode on Unsolved, and I actually have a little kind of connection to it in a weird way. My grandma actually knew the sheriff that was, trying to take care of it and everything. And so she actually knew and was aware of all the stuff that was going on. So it was really kind of interesting to listen to the story from a different point of view, not someone who she was kind of knew about it from living there. I love you guys. I just found you guys a few months ago, but I love listening to you. You guys have really good banter between each other. So I've been listening to it all the time since we've been home off of work. So I love listening to you guys. Take care and keep your own time ticking.
So what, people in the community pulled the trigger? Come on. Tell us.
Shed some light on what really happened.
Yeah.
That case still fascinates me because for the amount of people that were there that day,
Yeah.
for it not to come out, I think that really says something about the pact or whatever you want to call it that these people made.
Yeah. Because I can tell you, in today's world, you put half that people in a room and say, don't tell anybody.
It would be on social media before they even left the room.
Absolutely.
Somebody would tweet it.
They tell their best friend, but don't say anything. Their best friend tells somebody, but don't say anything. And before you know it, 5 million people know about it.
Yeah, that's the part of that case that, still kind of not confuses me, because I understand it. It's just, how they pulled that off, and how it's hard to get that number of people to go along with anything in the moment, but to then go along with it and keep it for years and years, and in a lot of cases to their dying day.
Right.
It's kind of amazing. All right, buddy, that's it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.